Hello, friends. Once again, cheers. I've got my favorite hat on today, and if you stick around and listen to my video at the end, I'll give a little bit more detail of why this is my favorite hat. But for now, I don't really have a whole lot to report in terms of like finds and bargains. I think the days of going to the thrift store and discovering some treasure for 50 cents or a quarter is those days are numbered if they're not already gone. It seems like everybody is getting on the Discogs and eBay deal and pricing all their records and hoarding, and it's just like I'm getting tired of just finding Mantovani albums and scratchy Christmas records. So, but be that as it may, the purpose of today's video is this is based on a recent thread that's been going through Facebook, and some of you Facebook people may have seen this, and it's basically a friend will nominate another Facebook friend to, let me see here, it says to list 10 all-time favorite albums, ones which have made an impact and are still on your rotation list, even if only now and then. And also you're asked to nominate another one of your friends to do the same thing. And at first it sounded more like a kind of one of those chain letter kind of deals, You remember the chain letters back in the days, and you must send a copy of this letter to 10 of your friends or you will face 10 years of bad luck and damnation by Satan, all that stupid crap. And at first this seemed like that kind of thing, and I really didn't jump on the bandwagon for that. But then it was like I was nominated by a very good friend of mine, Mr. Jimmy Miller. And I thought, well, he's one of my old great friends, and okay, so here I go. So anyway, I've been posting these on my Facebook channel, and I just thought I'd share them with you and make a video about it. So, all right, day one, I posted this live, Johnny Winter and. Okay, and this is what I wrote. I want to read what I've posted with the pictures on my Facebook page. A scorching guitar-driven tour de force from 1970. Some of the best live rock and roll ever. And believe me, it is. Absolutely love this album. I bought this album in 1970 when it came out, and it's been on, a lot of my rotations. Whenever I want some good old time, heavy duty, hard rocking music, this is a good album to have. It means a lot to me. All right, now next on my list, I've got my little computer here so I can make sure I get the right thing here. All right, so next I put down day 2. Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Okay, and here's what I wrote for this. The album that keeps getting better each time you listen. For over 40 years, I have owned multiple copies of this classic in various formats. Vinyl, CD, DVD, audio, bootleg, etc. I can never quite figure the overall meanings or symbology, but that is the beauty of this. Strangeness for the sake of strangeness, with mind-blowing music to assist you on a trip to places where only dreams will reveal the truth. Yeah, what an album. What an album. Genesis with Peter Gabriel, this is probably the peak of their creativity, and a longtime favorite of mine. Okay, so next we go to day 3. And on day 3, I posted this album. Roy Buchanan, second album. Okay. All right, what I wrote on this was a mostly instrumental album of jazz-tinged blues rock. This is the record that gave me a lifelong appreciation of a simple Telecaster guitar plugged straight into a Fender amp and cranked wide open. Roy Buchanan is a master of the Telecaster and very influential to my own development as a musician and a guitarist. Yes, I first heard tracks from this on a radio station many years ago. I think, 1972 or 73, whenever this album came out. I think it was 73. And immediately a fan, so I had to track this down. And it's been one of my favorites ever since. All right, and so next, we're going to day 4 of the Facebook favorite albums list. And what I listed as number 4 was Walter Carlos, Sonic Seasonings. Okay. Now, this is what I wrote here. Released in 1972, Sonic Seasonings was Carlos's experimental electronic ambient album that featured wildlife samples and field recordings of rainstorms, oceans, wind, burning fires, and howling wolves. It was a predecessor to much of the ambient/new age music to come nearly a decade later. A seldom mentioned classic of 20th century electroacoustic music, which is absolutely what it is. This is a genius album, in my opinion. Okay, and this is fabulous. I highly recommend that. All right, so next, here we go. Day 5. Day 5, okay. So what I've done here is I put down The Fountain. This is a soundtrack by Clint Mansell. It was the soundtrack to the movie The Fountain. Now, I'm showing you the CD here because I don't have the vinyl. Now, I did have the vinyl at one time, and I ordered it from, I think it was Mondo Records when it came out, and I was very disappointed with the sound and the quality. I mean, I really liked the movie, but I absolutely loved the musical soundtrack. But the vinyl I had was plagued with noise, distortion, clicks, and it wouldn't clean up. So I ended up selling it, and I sold it as is, because now, copies of that are definitely going for 3 figures. But, regardless, I buy music, I buy records to listen to, and something that I revere so much as this, I'm not going to listen to a noisy copy. So in this case, the CD is highly recommended. The compact disc actually kicks butt on vinyl for once, just for that fact. But anyway, I digress, as they say. This is what I wrote about The Fountain. Released in 2006, this album contains music composed by Clint Mansell and performed by the Kronos Quartet, Mogwai, and other musicians for Darren Aronofsky's movie, The Fountain. The movie is a somewhat surreal sci-fi fantasy, but is ultimately augmented by the brilliant musical score. And, if you know me, I love soundtrack albums. I've got a huge collection of soundtracks going all the way from, the 40s up through modern day, And this is absolutely one of my favorites. And despite being a soundtrack album, it's just good all-around music on its own. Highly recommend this. All right, so now we're going to day number 6. All right, so day number 6, I wrote this. Well, I posted this. This is End of the World by Aphrodite's Child. Okay. And this is what I wrote for this album. All right. The first album by the phenomenal European rock group that introduced the world to the amazing keyboard talents of Vangelis, the vocal artistry of Demis Roussos, and the fabulous percussion work of Lucas Sideris. Released in 1968, this LP was a mixture of pop songs and psychedelia with tinges of progressive rock that would later come to fruition with their masterpiece, 666. This was always one of my most sought-after albums. For years, I literally searched every record catalog, meticulously scoured every gold mine auction, and asked for it at every record store I visited. This was in the days before the internet, before eBay, before Amazon, and before Discogs. However, sometime in the late 1980s, I finally saw a copy listed for auction in Goldmine magazine, and I mailed in my bid. I won the auction, although it was not cheap. Anyway, much later, I ordered a Greek import of the first CD pressing from a record store in Texas, and it was not cheap either. So, anywho, yeah, another great classic in my opinion. All right, on we go to day number 7. All right, and what did I put for day number 7? All right, I put Loreena McKennitt, The Visit. And this is what I wrote. The album that introduced me to the marvelous talents of Canadian artist Loreena McKennitt. Beautiful songs produced in a modern Celtic style, augmented with synthesizers, electric guitars, and a plethora of ethnic instruments. The lyrics and musical arrangements create interesting stories that are at times historic and sometimes rich with symbolism and allegory. Yes, a huge fan of Loreena McKennitt. I've got all of her records, and she's got some new stuff out that I need to pick up that I've kind of missed over the past year. But, man, what an album. Love this stuff. All right, so here we go on now. We're going up to day number 8. All right, so we go all the way up to day number 8, and this is what I put down for day number 8. The Beatles, The Magical Mystery Tour. All right, and this is what I wrote in my Facebook page for this album. Released in I'll get it straight in a minute. Released in late 1967, The Magical Mystery Tour was the first LP that I ever bought with my own money. And today, over 50 years later, it's still one of my all-time favorite and most played albums. Every song, every sound, every note of music on this record is a delight. The album also came with a large cartoon storybook and nice photographs from the British Magical Mystery Tour TV special. And I'm sure that, all of you people out there that are Beatles fans, and it maybe if not, you know all about this album. A favorite. All right. So now we're getting down to, let me see, day number 9. Number 9. And what I put here is Hawkwind. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And this has got one of those nice little, shiny, illuminized, foil covers on there. But love Hawkwind. And all right, so this is what I wrote. Day number 9. It says, whoa, space rock, heavy metal, synthesizers, psychedelia, freeform jazz, and mayhem. It even has the imitable Lemmy Kilmister on bass, rhythm guitar, and vocals. everything that I wanted from rock and roll in my late teens. Beautiful, beautiful space rock album. All right, so that leads to number 10, day number 10. And, all right. This is Ozric Tentacles, Strangitude. All right. Now, this album here is another reason I'm wearing this hat today. Okay. I was introduced to this album back in late 1980s, early 1990s, sometime around there, by a good friend of mine. His name was Steve Bell. And Steve Bell and I were, you know, longtime friends, went to school together, shared a lot of concerts and a lot of life and stuff, and a great love of music. And he introduced me to a lot of great artists, and I did the same for him. Well, a few years ago, my friend Steve passed away after a long battle with cancer. And when I went to his services, I had to travel from where I live in Virginia down to Dallas, Texas, where they had his services. And while I was down there, his widow gave me his favorite hat. And not just that, but Steve, my friend Steve, had left me his favorite Stratocaster. So I know that you all, if you've seen any of my past videos, you've seen this in the background, one of my prized possessions. And also, another thing I could say about my friend Steve, okay, was that we had this kind of cosmic synchronicity about things. And if you notice on this hat here, it's got a Frank Zappa ticket stub. And it's dated September 16, 1977. And I vividly remember that day because I had planned to go to that concert with my friend Steve. But at the time, I was working here up here in the East. You know, I was working in Princeton, West Virginia. And the concert was in Dallas, Texas. So I had tried to get the day off, but I couldn't do it because I was the youngest and newest member of the site where I was working. And I couldn't get the day off because, well, I wanted the day before so I could travel down there. But I couldn't get the day off to travel down there. But anyway, I did go down there on this date. I mean, I left like, you know, very early in the morning and drove like hell. I was hoping, well, maybe, just maybe, I could get there in time for the concert. But I couldn't make it. You know, I mean, that was a long trip back in those days, and with traffic and everything else. I missed it. And I never forget, it's like when I saw Steve and his friends, I got there after they'd seen the concert, and the first thing they said was, "Wow, man, you missed one hell of a concert. That was Frank Zappa's best concert I've ever seen," you know, and it rubbed it in. But also, and this adds a little bit of the synchronicity, the date of the concert was September 16, 1977. And although I didn't know her at the time, September 16th is my wife's birthday, okay? And September 16, 1977 was her 21st birthday. So, you see, a bit of a cosmic connection there. And pardon me if I get a little misty here because, you know, this means a lot to me. So, I'll just end it here. And this is for my friend Steve. I know he's enjoying being in heaven with all of his, rock and roll heroes and his other family members and people he loved that's passed on. And hopefully one day I'll be with you, and we can share some more time together. Cheers.